Imagine waking before dawn in a Roman military camp somewhere on the edge of the empire. The year is 100 AD, during the reign of Trajan, and Rome stands at its greatest extent. You are a legionary, a professional soldier in the most formidable military machine the ancient world has ever known. The modern imagination sees Roman soldiers as disciplined heroes in gleaming armor. But the reality is far different. A brutal existence of relentless discipline, constant danger, back-breaking labor, and a level of military professionalism that demands everything from you, every moment of every day, for 25 years of service. Let us walk through a single day in your life as a Roman legionary and discover the 101 reasons why you simply wouldn't survive it. You wake to the sound of the bucina, the military horn that signals the start of the day. There is no snooze button, no gradual awakening. The sound is harsh and immediate, cutting through whatever dreams you might have been having. Around you in the contubernium, the tent you share with 7 other soldiers, men are already stirring. You've learned to wake instantly, because hesitation brings punishment. Your body responds before your mind is fully conscious. Years of conditioning making the response automatic. Modern people who struggle with alarm clocks would be broken by this instant transition from sleep to activity. The tent is cramped and smells of 8 men who have been living in close quarters for weeks. Each contubernium is a unit of 8 legionaries who fight together, eat together, sleep together, and depend on each other for survival. Privacy doesn't exist. You know everything about these 7 men, their snoring patterns, their digestion problems, their fears, their weaknesses. They know the same about you. Modern people who value personal space would find this constant proximity suffocating. You've learned to sleep lightly, always partially aware of your surroundings, because danger can come at any moment, even in camp. You're sleeping on the ground, with only your cloak as covering, and perhaps a thin blanket if you're fortunate. The ground is hard, and your body has adapted as much as it can, but you still wake with aches in your back and hips. Your sleeping position is constrained by the fact that you're packed into the tent with 7 other men and all your equipment. During winter on the northern frontier, the cold seeps through your cloak and into your bones. During summer in the eastern provinces, the heat is stifling even at night. Modern people, with their climate-controlled bedrooms and comfortable mattresses, cannot imagine sleeping in these conditions for years on end. Your equipment is stored with obsessive care within arm's reach. Your gladius, the short sword that is your primary weapon, your pylon, the throwing spear, your armor, your shield, your helmet, all must be instantly accessible. You've been trained to grab your weapon even while half asleep if the alarm sounds. This constant readiness, this inability to ever fully relax, even in sleep, creates a baseline stress that would exhaust most modern people within days. You roll out of your cloak and immediately begin the process of dressing and preparing for the day. First comes your subligaculum, a loincloth that's your only underwear. Then your tunic, red or undyed wool, depending on your legion and the period, reaching to mid-thigh. This tunic is itchy, scratchy wool that's never quite comfortable against your skin. Modern people accustomed to soft cotton would find this wool unbearable, especially when sweat-soaked after exertion. The tunic is also your blanket at night and your towel when needed, a multi-purpose garment that's never quite adequate for any single purpose. Next comes your caligae, the distinctive Roman military sandals. These are not casual footwear, but serious pieces of military equipment. Heavy leather with iron-studded soles that provide traction and intimidating noise when hundreds of legionaries march in formation. But they offer minimal protection from cold, wet, or rough terrain. Your feet are already calloused and scarred from years of marching in these sandals. Modern hiking boots with their padding and support would seem like miraculous technology. You'll march 20 to 30 miles today in these sandals, carrying 60 to 80 pounds of equipment, and your feet will be bleeding by the end. You must immediately relieve yourself in the designated latrine area of the camp. Roman military latrines are more organized than what other ancient armies used, but they're still just trenches in the ground with poles laid across for sitting. There's no privacy. Men sit side by side, conducting their business and conversations simultaneously. The smell is overwhelming, especially in summer. Modern people who find public restrooms uncomfortable would be horrified by this complete lack of privacy. The sponge on a stick, used for cleaning, is communal, rinsed in a channel of running water, if available, or a bucket, but never truly clean. Hygiene is minimal, and disease spreads easily. Water for washing is limited and often cold. You splash some on your face and hands from a communal bucket. But there's no soap as modern people know it, just water and not much of it. Full baths happen rarely, perhaps once a week if you're in a permanent camp with bath facilities, less often on campaign. your body accumulates layers of dirt, sweat, and grime that become part of your existence. Your skin is rough, often infected with various rashes and sores. Modern people who shower daily would find the constant feeling of being dirty psychologically distressing. Breakfast is quick and minimal. Hard bread, perhaps some cheese if available, watered wine or vinegar water. The bread is made from coarse grain, sometimes containing bits of stone from grinding that slowly wear down your teeth. The cheese, when available, is often partially spoiled. The liquid is barely palatable, but safer than untreated water. Modern people accustomed to varied breakfasts would find this monotonous diet depressing, but you've learned to eat what's provided without complaint. Complaining brings punishment, and besides, you'll need the energy for the day ahead. As you eat, your centurion is already moving through the camp. His vitis, his vine staff that serves as symbol of his authority and instrument of punishment, in hand. He's checking that men are awake, properly dressed, and preparing for the day's duties. The centurion is the backbone of the legion, the professional officer who maintains discipline through a combination of leadership and ruthless enforcement. You've felt his vitis across your back before for minor infractions, and you have no desire to repeat the experience. Modern people who think military discipline is harsh would be shocked by the Roman system, where centurions can beat soldiers nearly to death for failures in duty. Your contubernium must prepare breakfast for the group, while others break down the tent and prepare equipment. This rotation of duties is strictly organized. Everyone knows their role, and failure to fulfill it brings group punishment. You're not just responsible for yourself, but for your 7 tent mates. If one fails, all suffer. This collective responsibility creates intense social pressure. Modern people who prefer individual accountability would struggle with this system, where your fate is tied to others' performance. The morning inspection is approaching. Your equipment must be perfect. Armor polished, weapons sharpened, shield in good repair, all leather fittings oiled and functional. You've spent time the previous evening on maintenance, but you check everything again now. A rusted sword or damaged shield could mean your death in combat, but more immediately, it will mean punishment during inspection. The centurion's eye misses nothing. He's looking for any excuse to make an example, because discipline is maintained through fear as much as respect. The entire legion assembles for morning drill. 6,000 men forming up in precise formations, each cohort in its designated position, each century within each cohort properly arranged. The scale is impressive, but also intimidating. You're a tiny part of this massive military machine, and you must function perfectly in coordination with thousands of others. Modern people who struggle with choreography would be overwhelmed by the precision required in Roman military formations. Drill begins with marching, not casual walking, but precise, synchronized movement. Every step must be the same length as every other soldier's step. Every turn must be executed simultaneously. The legion must be able to march as one organism, pivot and redeploy as a single unit. You've been drilling these movements for years, but they're never quite perfect enough. The centurion watches, his vitis ready for anyone who breaks formation or loses step. The physical toll of marching in formation, in armor, in those studded sandals, hour after hour, would break most modern people. The drill intensifies. Now you're practicing the testudo, the famous Roman tortoise formation where shields lock together to form a protective shell. You're in the middle ranks, holding your scutum, your large rectangular shield, above your head while maintaining tight formation with the men around you. The shield weighs about 20 pounds and quickly becomes impossibly heavy. Your arm burns. Your shoulder aches. Sweat pours down your face. But you must hold position, because the testudo only works if everyone maintains discipline. One weak link, and the formation fails. Modern people who find holding a gallon of milk difficult would collapse under the sustained strain of holding a shield overhead for extended periods. Weapons drill follows. You practice with the gladius, the short stabbing sword that is Rome's primary infantry weapon. The technique is specific and rigidly enforced. Stab, don't slash. The gladius is designed for close quarters combat in tight formation, where slashing is inefficient and dangerous to your comrades. You practice the proper thrust, low, aiming for the abdomen or groin, below the enemy's shield. The motion must be quick, economical, and immediately withdrawn for the next thrust. You've practiced this thousands of times, but you'll practice it thousands more. Modern sword enthusiasts who prefer dramatic slashing techniques would find the Roman method boring and unglamorous, but it's devastatingly effective. The training dummy stands before you, a thick post with cross beams representing an enemy's shoulders. You practice striking it with your gladius while holding your shield in defensive position. Each strike must be powerful enough to penetrate armor and flesh, precise enough to hit vital areas, and quick enough to withdraw before you're vulnerable. The impact of blade against wood travels up your arm, jarring your shoulder with each strike. After 100 strikes, your arm is exhausted. After 500, it's quivering. But the drill continues, because muscle memory must be absolute. pylum throwing practice follows. The pylum is Rome's devastating throwing spear, about 6 feet long, with a long iron shank designed to bend on impact, making the enemy's shield unusable. You must throw from formation, all together on command, achieving both accuracy and coordinated timing. The pylum is heavy and awkward, and throwing it with power requires full body technique. You practice throwing at various distances, learning to gauge range and adjust your throw. Modern people who find throwing a ball difficult would struggle with the weight and technique required for effective pylum use. Shield work is crucial. Your scutum is not just defensive, but offensive. You use it to bash enemies, to maintain formation cohesion, to protect your comrades. Shield drills practice maintaining tight formation while moving, keeping shield walls intact, using the shield's weight and edge as weapons. The physical demands are enormous. You're holding 20 pounds extended from your body, moving precisely in coordination with others for extended periods. The specific muscles used in shield work aren't developed by any normal activity, and modern people would find them burning and cramping within minutes. Marching drill resumes, but now in full combat equipment. Not just your armor and weapons, but also your pack, your impedimenta. This includes your cooking pot, rations for several days, tools for constructing fortifications, stakes for defensive barriers, spare clothing, personal items. The total weight approaches 80 pounds. You must march with this load, maintaining formation for hours. The Roman legion could cover 25 miles in 5 hours carrying this equipment, a pace modern infantrymen with better equipment and nutrition would find challenging. Your centurion is constantly present during drill, watching for any failure. His vitis strikes without warning, across the back, the shoulders, the legs, whenever he sees sloppiness or failure. The pain is sharp and immediate, but you cannot react beyond a momentary grimace. Crying out or dropping your equipment would bring more punishment. Modern people who object to corporal punishment would be horrified by this system, where casual beating is the primary method of maintaining discipline. The morning drill ends, not because you're finished, but because other duties require attention. You're exhausted, soaked with sweat, muscles aching, but the day has barely begun. Modern people who consider a morning gym session a major effort would be destroyed by this level of intense physical drill, maintained daily for decades. You have no rest days, no recovery periods, no ability to call in sick. This is your life, every day, for 25 years of service. Water is distributed. Each man receives his ration to be carried in his personal water skin. The amount seems inadequate for the day's exertion, because it is. Water discipline is strict, because supply is never guaranteed. You've learned to ration your water carefully, to endure thirst, to push through dehydration. Modern people who carry water bottles everywhere would find the constant thirst and water rationing psychologically difficult. But in the Legion, waste of water can bring punishment as severe as any other failure. The Legion's motto might as well be, "Every Legionary is an engineer." After morning drill, your cohort is assigned to construction duty. Today, you're reinforcing the camp fortifications. Roman military camps are not casual encampments, but fortress-like structures, even when temporary. Every night, no matter how tired the Legion is from marching, a fortified camp must be constructed. Today, you're improving and expanding an existing camp that will serve as a more permanent base. You march to the construction site carrying your tools, a dolabra, a combination pickaxe and mattock, a shovel, stakes for fortification, rope. These tools are heavy, adding to your already substantial load. The work site is outside the current fortifications, which means you're potentially vulnerable to attack. Some of the Legion stands guard, while others work, rotating through shifts. The awareness that you might need to drop tools and grab weapons at any moment creates constant tension. The task is to deepen and widen the defensive ditch surrounding the camp. You climb down into the existing ditch and begin digging. The work is brutal, swinging the dolabra to break up earth, shoveling the loose soil out of the ditch, maintaining a specific angle and depth as mandated by Roman military engineering standards. Your back aches from the bent posture. Your hands, already calloused from weapon work, develop new blisters from tool handles. The repetitive motion of digging, hour after hour, would defeat most modern people within the first few hours. The engineering standards are precise and non-negotiable. The ditch must be a specific width and depth, typically about 5 feet deep and 10 feet wide. The angle of the sides must be correct to prevent easy climbing. The bottom must be certain width to channel water and make crossing difficult. The removed earth is piled on the campsite to create a rampart, which must also be built to specific dimensions. Roman military engineering is sophisticated and exacting, and failure to meet standards brings punishment. A centurion supervises the work, measuring with rods and cords, checking angles and depths. His standards are unforgiving. If your section of ditch is even slightly shallow or poorly angled, you must redo it. The public nature of this correction, being called out in front of your comrades for substandard work, is humiliating and motivating. Modern people who dislike public criticism would find this constant scrutiny and public correction psychologically brutal. The physical demands of construction work, on top of morning drill, on top of carrying full equipment, on top of inadequate sleep and nutrition, create cumulative exhaustion that modern people cannot comprehend. You push through because stopping isn't an option. Showing weakness invites not sympathy, but contempt and punishment. The Roman military doesn't recognize exhaustion as an excuse. Only results matter. Modern workers with their 8-hour days, breaks, and workplace safety standards would be shocked by the relentless pace and demands. Midday arrives, bringing a brief break for food. You eat while sitting on the edge of the ditch. Bread, dried meat if available, water or watered wine. The break is perhaps 30 minutes, barely enough to eat and catch your breath before work resumes. Modern lunch breaks with their full hours and comfortable settings would seem like impossible luxury. You eat quickly, mechanically, because this is fuel, not pleasure. The bread is hard enough to hurt your already damaged teeth. The meat is salty and tough, but you eat it all because you need the energy and because food is never certain. After the break, the work continues. Now you're helping construct the rampart from the earth, removed from the ditch. This requires piling and packing the soil, creating a wall of specific height and angle, then reinforcing it with stakes and sometimes turf or stones. The work requires coordination. Men must work together to move large amounts of earth, to position heavy timbers, to drive stakes. Modern people who struggle with teamwork in office settings would find the physical demands of coordinated construction work overwhelming. The Roman legion's engineering capabilities are legendary, and you're part of that legend. But the reality is brutal labor, hour after hour, in all weather, with no option to stop or complain. You've built roads, bridges, fortifications, aqueducts, siege engines. Every skill a modern construction worker might specialize in, you must be competent in. The breadth of knowledge required, combined with the physical demands, would overwhelm most modern people who expect specialization and tools that reduce physical effort. Your hands are bleeding now, despite the calluses. The wooden handle of your delabra has worn away new skin, exposing raw flesh. You wrap it with a strip of cloth torn from your cloak and continue working. There's no medical station, no first aid, no one to complain to. Minor injuries are your responsibility to manage while continuing your duties. Modern people who seek medical attention for paper cuts would be forced to function through injuries that would normally stop them. The afternoon heat intensifies, especially if you're on the frontier in warmer climates. The sun beats down on you as you work in a ditch that traps heat. You're wearing wool, which doesn't breathe, and you're doing heavy labor. Heat exhaustion is a constant threat. Men sometimes collapse, and if they do, they're dragged to shade and replaced by others. The work cannot stop because the fortifications must be completed. Modern people, with their air conditioning and ability to avoid heat, would find these conditions potentially fatal. As evening approaches, the work is inspected. A tribune rides along the fortification line, checking the construction quality. Behind him rides an engineer, taking measurements. They find a section that doesn't meet standards. Not your section, fortunately, but another contubernium's work. That entire group is ordered to stay and correct the deficiency, while the rest of the cohort is released. You feel relief that it wasn't your work, and guilt for feeling relief at your comrade's misfortune. The competitive environment created by group punishment corrodes solidarity, even as it enforces cooperation. You return to your section of the camp exhausted, filthy, and starving. The evening meal is the main meal of the day, and it's prepared communally by your contubernium. A rotation determines whose turn it is to cook. Today, thankfully, it's not you. The meal is basic but substantial. Pulse or porridge made from grain, vegetables if available, rarely meat unless it's a special occasion or you're wealthy enough to purchase it from camp followers. The cooking area is shared among several contubernia, creating a crowded, smoky environment. Fires are tended carefully. Fuel must be gathered and conserved, and uncontrolled fire in a military camp is a serious offence. The cooking pot is a large bronze vessel that serves your 8-man unit. The pulse is thick, filling, and monotonous. You've eaten essentially this same meal almost every day for years. Modern people who expect variety in their diet would find the unrelenting sameness of legionary food psychologically wearing. While the food cooks, you must attend to equipment maintenance. Your gladius must be sharpened and oiled. Your shield, which has suffered damage during drill, must be repaired. New leather fittings attached, wood repaired, the surface resealed. Your armor must be cleaned and checked for damage. This maintenance is not optional. Equipment failure in combat means death, and poorly maintained equipment during inspection means punishment. The constant care required for your equipment is time-consuming and never-ending. Modern people who discard and replace items would find this relationship with equipment, where you must personally maintain everything you own, burdensome. The meal is finally ready, and you eat from your personal bowl with your fingers and perhaps a spoon. The portions are substantial because you need the calories, but the quality is poor. The pulse is bland, occasionally flavored with salt, garlic, or herbs if available, but often just boiled grain. You've grown accustomed to the taste, or rather, to the lack of taste. Modern people with their highly flavored processed foods would find Legionary rations almost inedible, but you eat mechanically, refueling your body because tomorrow will bring the same demands. Social interaction during the meal is when you truly see the personalities of your contubernium. These 7 men are your family more than your actual family, whom you might not have seen in years. You know their stories, their fears, their hopes. Bonds formed in military service are deep and complex. These men might save your life tomorrow, or you might save theirs. But the closeness also breeds conflict. Old grudges simmer. Personality clashes create tension. Living in such close quarters with no privacy means every irritating habit becomes magnified. One of your tent mates, Marcus, is complaining again about the centurion's harshness during morning drill. You understand his frustration, but complaining is dangerous. Walls have ears, and criticism of superiors can be punished as insubordination. You try to change the subject, but Marcus is insistent. This is the social navigation required in the Legion, maintaining solidarity while not getting caught up in others' potential disciplinary problems. Modern people who struggle with workplace politics would find this environment, where casual conversation could lead to severe punishment, exhausting. Another tentmate, Gaius, is dealing with an infection in his foot from a blister that became septic. The wound is red, swollen, leaking pus. He's in obvious pain, but hasn't reported to the medical staff because that might mark him as weak or malingering. The Roman military has some medical capability. The Legion includes medici, doctors, and each century has basic medical supplies. But the attitude toward injury and illness is harsh. Unless you're obviously unable to function, you're expected to perform your duties. Modern people who visit doctors for minor ailments would be shocked by this expectation that you simply endure serious infections and injuries. You help Gaius clean and rebandage his wound with strips of relatively clean cloth, though you have no actual medical knowledge beyond what you've picked up from experience. The care you can provide is minimal. Cleaning with wine or vinegar if available, bandaging, hope. There are no antibiotics, no real understanding of infection beyond the practical observation that dirty wounds often get worse. The infection might heal on its own, or it might spread and kill him. You've seen men die from infected wounds that seemed minor initially. The randomness of survival creates constant anxiety. Evening brings some leisure time, but even this is structured. Gambling is officially prohibited, but universally practiced. Men play dice games for small stakes. Coins, rations, personal items. The games are a way to pass time and perhaps win something extra. But they also create debts and feuds that complicate camp life. You participate cautiously, knowing that winning too much makes enemies. Losing too much creates financial problems, and being caught by an officer during an unlucky raid on the games brings punishment. Some men spend their leisure time writing letters home, though literacy rates among common soldiers are low. If you're literate, you might write your own letters or write for comrades who cannot. The letters travel slowly, taking weeks or months to reach their destinations, if they reach them at all. Communication with your family is sporadic at best. You might not hear from home for a year, might not know if your family members are alive or dead. Modern people with instant global communication cannot imagine this isolation and uncertainty. Religious observances are part of daily life. The Legion has its own religious calendar, with sacrifices and ceremonies honouring the gods, the Emperor, the Legion's standards. You participate because it's required, but also because genuine belief provides psychological comfort in a dangerous, uncertain existence. Modern people who treat religion as private and optional would find the public, mandatory nature of Roman military religion constraining, but the rituals provide structure and meaning, connecting you to something larger than yourself and your immediate suffering. As darkness falls, the camp settles into its nighttime routine, but there's no real rest. Guard duty is assigned by rotation, and tonight is your turn for the midnight watch. Until then, you have a few hours for sleep, and you make use of them, despite knowing you'll be woken in the night. Sleep in the Legion is always partial, always interrupted, never fully restorative. Modern people who need 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep would be slowly destroyed by the chronic sleep deprivation that's simply normal in military life. The trumpet sounds for your watch shift. You're awakened from deep sleep. The exhaustion of the day's labor makes falling asleep easy, despite the discomfort. You rise immediately, grab your equipment, and report to your guard post. The centurion in charge of the night watch checks that you're properly equipped and alert. Falling asleep on guard duty is one of the most serious offences in the Roman military, potentially punishable by death. The stakes of this simple duty are absolute. Your vigilance protects the entire camp. Your guard post is a section of the camp wall. You walk a specific route, back and forth, watching the darkness beyond the fortifications. The night is cold, and you have only your cloak for warmth. You must remain alert despite exhaustion, despite the mind-numbing boredom of staring into darkness, despite the cold that seeps into your bones. Modern people who struggle to stay awake during boring meetings would find maintaining alertness during a 4-hour night watch, when exhausted, almost impossible. The darkness beyond the camp is complete. No light pollution, no street lights, just pure darkness, broken only by stars or moon if you're fortunate. Your eyes adjust, but visibility remains limited. Every sound makes you alert. Is it wind, animals, or potential enemies? The psychological strain of this uncertainty, hour after hour, is enormous. You must remain vigilant enough to spot a real threat, but not so jumpy that you raise false alarms, which would bring punishment. You're not alone on watch. Other sentries are posted along the walls, and you can occasionally hear their movements or challenges. The password changes daily, and you must know it perfectly. If someone approaches your post, you must challenge them and verify they know the password. Failure to challenge or accepting an incorrect password is a serious offense. The protocols are strict and must be followed exactly, even when you're exhausted and cold and just want your watch to end. The hours drag by with excruciating slowness. You have no watch, no way to tell time beyond the position of stars if you know how to read them. You can only wait for the trumpet that signals the end of your shift. Your mind wanders, despite your efforts to stay focused. You think about home, about family you haven't seen in years, about comrades who've died, about whether you'll survive your 25 years of service to receive your discharge and land grant. Modern people who find waiting in line frustrating would be driven mad by these hours of forced vigilance with nothing happening. Strange sounds in the darkness make your heart race. You grip your pylon, staring into the blackness, trying to determine if that sound was wind or movement. The fear is real. Attacks on Roman camps happen, and sentries are the first target, because killing them silently allows attackers to penetrate the camp. The awareness that you're potentially the first point of contact with enemies creates adrenaline that fights against your exhaustion. Modern people who've never faced actual danger cannot understand the physical and psychological effects of sustained vigilant fear. Finally, the trumpet sounds. Your relief arrives, another soldier taking his turn at watch, You exchange the password, give a brief report that the watch was uneventful, and make your way back to your tent. The walk through the darkened camp requires care. Tripping or making noise could wake sleeping soldiers or attract attention from officers, neither of which is desirable. You're moving through a city of 6,000 men trying to sleep. You collapse back onto your cloak in the tent. Your tent mates are asleep, their breathing and snoring filling the small space. You try to fall back asleep immediately because you have perhaps 2 hours before the morning horn sounds and the entire cycle begins again. But sleep comes slowly now. The adrenaline from watch duty, the cold that's soaked into your body, the aches from the day's labor, all conspire to keep you wakeful. Modern people who struggle with interrupted sleep would find this routine of fragmented rest devastating. You finally drift off, only to be awakened what seems like moments later by the morning horn. Your body screams for more rest, but the day begins regardless of your needs. This is the daily cycle: exhausting labor, inadequate rest, constant vigilance, minimal comfort. It will continue tomorrow, and the next day, and for years to come. Modern people who feel tired after a busy week cannot comprehend this level of sustained exertion and sleep deprivation maintained for decades. The morning begins like countless others, but today brings new orders. The Legion is marching, not just training marches around the camp, but actual movement to a new location. Rumours spread quickly through the ranks. Some say there's a barbarian threat on the frontier that requires the Legion's presence. Others claim it's just repositioning for strategic purposes. As a common legionary, you won't know the real reason until much later, if ever. You simply follow orders. The camp must be struck. Everything that was built yesterday must now be disassembled, packed, and prepared for transport. Your contubernium works with practiced efficiency, taking down the tent, packing equipment, preparing for the march. The amount of gear each 8-man unit must carry is staggering. Beyond personal equipment, there's the tent, cooking pot, tools, spare weapons, rations. Modern camping, which most people find burdensome even with specialized lightweight equipment, doesn't compare to breaking down an entire military camp with thousands of soldiers. You assemble in formation with full marching kit. The weight distribution across your body is specific and practiced. Shield on your back, gladius on your right hip, pack suspended from a T-shaped pole carried over your shoulder containing everything else. The total weight approaches 80 pounds. You've conditioned yourself to carry this load, but it never becomes comfortable. The pack frame digs into your shoulder. The weight pulls at your back. Modern backpackers with their ergonomic packs and weight distribution systems would still find this load crushing. The march begins. The Legion moves as a massive column, 6,000 legionaries, plus auxiliary troops, plus camp followers, plus wagons carrying supplies. The formation is organized and disciplined, each cohort maintaining its position, each century marching in order. The sound is remarkable. Thousands of caligae striking the ground in rough rhythm, equipment clanking, officers calling commands, the creak of wagon wheels. You're a small part of this enormous machine, and you must maintain your place in it. The pace is brutal. The Roman legion can cover 25 miles in 5 hours when necessary. A forced march that maintains about 5 miles per hour with full equipment. This isn't hiking. It's sustained speed, marching with no breaks except brief halts to maintain formation. Your legs burn, your lungs labor. The weight on your shoulder seems to increase with every mile. Modern people who find a 5K run challenging would be destroyed by this pace maintained for hours with 60 pounds of equipment. The terrain doesn't matter to the pace. The Legion marches regardless of hills, rough ground, weather. When you encounter an obstacle, you adapt. A stream must be forded, requiring you to hold your equipment overhead to keep it dry. A steep hill must be climbed, the weight on your back making each step agony. The march continues regardless of individual suffering. Modern people accustomed to adjusting their plans based on conditions would be shocked by this relentless forward movement, regardless of difficulty. Dust from thousands of feet fills the air. If you're positioned in the middle or rear of the column, you're breathing dust constantly. It coats your throat, makes breathing difficult, irritates your eyes. You can taste it with every breath. The soldier ahead of you is barely visible through the dust cloud. Modern people who complain about air quality would find this thick, choking dust almost unbreathable. But you march through it because stopping isn't an option. The heat becomes oppressive, especially if marching in summer in southern provinces. The sun beats down. The weight of your equipment traps heat against your body. Exertion generates more heat. You're drinking from your water skin, but the ration seems inadequate. Dehydration is a constant threat. Men sometimes collapse from heat exhaustion, and the column simply flows around them. If they can recover, they rejoin. If not, they're left for the rear guard to collect. The casualness with which human limits are pushed and exceeded would shock modern people. You're maintaining formation while marching, which requires constant attention. You must keep proper distance from the man in front, must stay in line with those beside you, must adjust pace based on the whole column's movement. This might sound simple, but maintaining formation while exhausted, in dust, carrying heavy weight for hours requires immense concentration. Modern people who find it difficult to walk in crowds would be overwhelmed by the precision required in military marching. Your feet are on fire. The caligae, despite being well made, offer minimal cushioning. The iron studs that provide traction also transmit every impact directly to your feet. Blisters form, burst, and continue to be abraded by the continuous marching. Your feet are bleeding inside your sandals, but you march on because everyone's feet are bleeding, and this is simply what marching entails. Modern people with their cushioned shoes would be crippled by this level of foot damage. Mental endurance is tested as much as physical. The march seems endless. Time loses meaning when you're in a state of sustained suffering. You cannot see the destination. You have no idea how much farther you must go. You can only focus on the next step and the next, creating a meditation of pain and endurance. Modern people who need to know how much further would be psychologically broken by this uncertainty and lack of control. The social isolation would be equally destructive. Yes, you have your tent mates, bonds forged in shared suffering and danger, but you're cut off from normal society, from family, from any life outside the military. You might not see your home for decades. Communication is sporadic at best. The person you were before enlistment is systematically destroyed and replaced with the soldier self that exists only to serve the military function. Modern people who maintain diverse identities and relationships would find this reduction to a single military function dehumanizing. The ancient world was brutal in ways we can barely comprehend. Life was cheap, suffering was common, death was omnipresent. The Roman legionary existed in this brutal world as a professional agent of violence, conquering and pacifying on behalf of an empire that consumed resources, including human resources, with little concern for individual welfare. We can admire the discipline, the engineering achievement, the military effectiveness, while also recognizing the terrible human cost paid by individual soldiers. So tonight, in your comfortable home, with your freedom to choose your path, with your insulation from violence, with your access to health care and adequate nutrition, with your expectation of long life and retirement, imagine for a moment that Roman legionary in his barracks. He's 32 years old, but feels 50. His body is scarred and worn from years of extreme demands. His mind carries memories of violence that will haunt him until death. He faces 20 more years of this existence before he can retire. If he survives that long, thank whatever circumstances of history and geography brought you into this world instead of that one. The Roman legionaries built an empire and achieved military feats that still impress us 2 millennia later. We can honor their service and sacrifice without romanticizing their suffering. We can appreciate their discipline and effectiveness while being grateful we don't have to pay the price they paid. Because the truth, the fundamental truth underlying everything we've explored is this: you wouldn't survive a day as a Roman legionary, not because you're weak, but because you're human. And being fully human, with all the need for autonomy, dignity, emotional expression, and basic comfort that entails, was something the Roman military systematically stripped away from its soldiers. They created effective military machines by removing the elements of humanity that made men weak soldiers. But this transformation destroyed much of what makes life worth living. The Roman legionaries were extraordinary, but their extraordinary nature came from surviving and functioning in a system designed to push human beings far beyond normal limits. They endured discipline that would be considered abuse today, violence that would traumatize modern soldiers despite all their training and support, physical demands that would break most people, and a commitment that bound their lives for 25 years to an organization that viewed them as Expen 101 reasons you wouldn't survive a day as a Roman legionary. The social isolation would be equally destructive. Yes, you have your tent mates, bonds forged in shared suffering and danger, but you're cut off from normal society, from family, from any life outside the military. You might not see your home for decades. Communication is sporadic at best. The person you were before enlistment is systematically destroyed and replaced with the soldier self that exists only to serve the military function. Modern people who maintain diverse identities and relationships would find this reduction to a single military function dehumanizing. The ancient world was brutal in ways we can barely comprehend. Life was cheap, suffering was common, death was omnipresent. The Roman legionary existed in this brutal world as a professional agent of violence, conquering and pacifying on behalf of an empire that consumed resources, including human resources, with little concern for individual welfare. We can admire the discipline, the engineering achievement, the military effectiveness, while also recognizing the terrible human cost paid by individual soldiers. So tonight, in your comfortable home, with your freedom to choose your path, with your insulation from violence, with your access to health care and adequate nutrition, with your expectation of long life and retirement, imagine for a moment that Roman legionary in his barracks. He's 32 years old, but feels 50. His body is scarred and worn from years of extreme demands. His mind carries memories of violence that will haunt him until death. He faces 20 more years of this existence before he can retire. If he survives that long, thank whatever circumstances of history and geography brought you into this world instead of that one. The Roman legionaries built an empire and achieved military feats that still impress us 2 millennia later. We can honor their service and sacrifice without romanticizing their suffering. We can appreciate their discipline and effectiveness while being grateful we don't have to pay the price they paid. Because the truth, the fundamental truth underlying everything we've explored is this: you wouldn't survive a day as a Roman legionary, not because you're weak, but because you're human. And being fully human, with all the need for autonomy, dignity, emotional expression, and basic comfort that entails, was something the Roman military systematically stripped away from its soldiers. They created effective military machines by removing the elements of humanity that made men weak soldiers. But this transformation destroyed much of what makes life worth living. The Roman legionaries were extraordinary, but their extraordinary nature came from surviving and functioning in a system designed to push human beings far beyond normal limits. They endured discipline that would be considered abuse today, violence that would traumatize modern soldiers despite all their training and support, physical demands that would break most people, and a commitment that bound their lives for 25 years to an organization that viewed them as Expen 101 reasons you wouldn't survive a day as a Roman legionary. As another day ends in the barracks, you lie on your bunk, a simple wooden platform with a thin mattress, but luxury compared to sleeping on the ground during campaign. Around you, your tent mates are settling in, some sleeping, some quietly talking, some maintaining equipment. The sounds are familiar, almost comforting in their routine, But underneath the normalcy, you carry the weight of everything you've experienced, everything you've done, everyone you've lost. We romanticize the Roman legions in our modern age. We see the disciplined formations in movies, the impressive architecture of their camps, the sweep of their conquests across the map. We imagine glory and honor, professional soldiers in gleaming armor, marching in perfect synchronization. But we filter out the blood, the disease, the brutal discipline, the moral compromises, the psychological toll. We don't see the young men aged beyond their years, the constant low-level suffering, the emotional numbing required to function in this system. The Roman legionary was a remarkable military innovation, a professional soldier who served for 25 years, trained to a standard rarely achieved in ancient warfare, capable of both combat and engineering, bound by discipline so strict it seems almost inhuman. The Roman military machine conquered most of the known world through the effectiveness of these soldiers, but that effectiveness came at an enormous personal cost to the individual legionaries who were the components of this machine. Could a modern person survive even one day as a Roman legionary? Physically, perhaps, if they were extremely fit and accustomed to hardship. But psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, the answer is almost certainly no. We are products of our time as much as the Romans were products of theirs. The gap between our worlds is not merely one of technology, but of fundamental assumptions about human dignity, individual worth, acceptable suffering, and what life should offer. Every physical challenge, the constant marching, the heavy loads, the inadequate food, the harsh discipline, would be compounded by psychological ones. The complete loss of autonomy, the expectation of absolute obedience, the constant proximity to violence and death, the requirement to commit acts that would traumatize most modern people, the 25-year commitment to a life that grinds you down day by day. Modern people who struggle with job dissatisfaction would be destroyed by this total binding of your life to military service with no escape except death or disability. The discipline alone would defeat most of us. Not just the physical punishment, though that would be bad enough, but the complete subordination of self to the collective, the military machine, the state. Modern people who value individual expression and personal choice would find the Roman military's complete control over every aspect of your life psychologically unbearable. You don't choose where you go, what you do, when you eat, when you sleep. Every moment is controlled, every action prescribed, every deviation punished. The violence would traumatize most modern people beyond recovery. Not just witnessing violence, but participating in it, killing in close combat, seeing friends die, committing acts in conquered territories that would be war crimes by modern standards, and then being expected to simply continue functioning, to process none of it, to suppress all emotional response and maintain combat effectiveness. Modern understanding of PTSD would recognize this as psychological catastrophe, but Roman legionaries were simply expected to endure it for 25 years. As another day ends in the barracks, you lie on your bunk, a simple wooden platform with a thin mattress, but luxury compared to sleeping on the ground during campaign. Around you, your tent mates are settling in, some sleeping, some quietly talking, some maintaining equipment. The sounds are familiar, almost comforting in their routine, but underneath the normalcy, you carry the weight of everything you've experienced, everything you've done, everyone you've lost. We romanticize the Roman legions in our modern age. We see the disciplined formations in movies, the impressive architecture of their camps, the sweep of their conquests across the map. We imagine glory and honor, professional soldiers in gleaming armor, marching in perfect synchronization. But we filter out the blood, the disease, the brutal discipline, the moral compromises, the psychological toll. We don't see the young men aged beyond their years, the constant low-level suffering, the emotional numbing required to function in this system. The Roman legionary was a remarkable military innovation, a professional soldier who served for 25 years, trained to a standard rarely achieved in ancient warfare, capable of both combat and engineering, bound by discipline so strict it seems almost inhuman. The Roman military machine conquered most of the known world through the effectiveness of these soldiers, but that effectiveness came at an enormous personal cost to the individual legionaries who were the components of this machine. Could a modern person survive even one day as a Roman legionary? Physically, perhaps, if they were extremely fit and accustomed to hardship. But psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, the answer is almost certainly no. We are products of our time as much as the Romans were products of theirs. The gap between our worlds is not merely one of technology, but of fundamental assumptions about human dignity, individual worth, acceptable suffering, and what life should offer. Every physical challenge, the constant marching, The heavy loads, the inadequate food, the harsh discipline would be compounded by psychological ones. The complete loss of autonomy, the expectation of absolute obedience, the constant proximity to violence and death, the requirement to commit acts that would traumatize most modern people, the 25-year commitment to a life that grinds you down day by day. Modern people who struggle with job dissatisfaction would be destroyed by this total binding of your life to military service with no escape except death or disability. The discipline alone would defeat most of us. Not just the physical punishment, though that would be bad enough, but the complete subordination of self to the collective, the military machine, the state. Modern people who value individual expression and personal choice would find the Roman military's complete control over every aspect of your life psychologically unbearable. You don't choose where you go, what you do, when you eat, when you sleep. Every moment is controlled, every action prescribed, every deviation punished. The violence would traumatize most modern people beyond recovery. Not just witnessing violence, but participating in it, killing in close combat, seeing friends die, committing acts in conquered territories that would be war crimes by modern standards, and then being expected to simply continue functioning, to process none of it, to suppress all emotional response and maintain combat effectiveness. Modern understanding of PTSD would recognize this as psychological catastrophe, but Roman legionaries were simply expected to endure it for 25 years. Medical treatment is available in the permanent camp's hospital. Your arm wound, which never properly healed during the campaign, is examined. The medicus cleans it properly, stitches it closed with thread made from animal gut, and orders you to keep it immobilized for several days. This is the first actual medical treatment you've received since the initial injury months ago. Modern people who visit doctors for minor concerns would be shocked that you've been functioning with an untreated wound for this long. Integration back into garrison life is psychologically jarring. You go from constant danger and activity to routine garrison duties, training, guard rotations, maintenance work, but without the immediate threat of combat. The absence of constant danger should be relaxing, but instead, it's destabilizing. You're hypervigilant in situations that don't require it, jumpy at unexpected sounds, distant during social interactions. Modern psychologists would recognize this as combat stress injury, but you just think something is wrong with you that you need to overcome. Letters finally arrive from home, correspondence that's been accumulating at the permanent camp during your months on campaign. You learn that your father died almost a year ago, and you weren't there. Your mother is struggling to maintain the family farm. Your younger brother was injured in an accident and can no longer work effectively. The news is devastating, but also remote. These people and their problems feel disconnected from your reality. Modern people who maintain close family bonds would be disturbed by this emotional distance that military service creates. You must decide how to help your family financially. You send money, but it's not enough to solve the problems they face. You consider requesting leave to visit, but leave is rarely granted and would use your limited accumulated time off. You're trapped between obligations to the army that owns you for 20 more years and to the family you barely remember. Modern people who can take time off for family emergencies would find this lack of control over your own life and inability to help loved ones psychologically crushing. The Legion conducts religious ceremonies, welcoming the campaign survivors home and honoring the dead. The names of the fallen are read, and you stand silent as Lucius and dozens of others are named. Offerings are made to the gods, thanks given for victory, prayers offered for those lost. The ceremony provides some closure, but it can't fill the emptiness left by so many deaths. Modern people who expect therapeutic closure would find these brief military ceremonies inadequate for processing the level of loss and trauma you've experienced. Training resumes almost immediately. The Legion must integrate new recruits, must restore its combat effectiveness, must prepare for the next campaign season. You're back to the same daily drill: marching, weapons practice, formation work. Your body resists, still exhausted from the campaign, but you push through because this is simply what legionary life is. Modern people who expect recovery periods after trauma would be shocked by this immediate return to full duty with no accommodation for what you've endured. You look ahead at 20 more years of service, 20 more years of this cycle: training, campaigns, casualties, return, training again. 20 more years of watching friends die, of killing enemies, of pushing your body beyond limits, of suppressing emotions and humanity. The prospect is crushing, but you see no alternative. If you survive, you'll receive your discharge and land grant. That distant possibility is what you cling to, though you know most legionaries don't survive to retirement. They die in battle, from disease, from injuries, from the cumulative toll of this lifestyle. The campaign finally ends. Orders come that the Legion is returning to permanent quarters for winter. The news brings relief, but not joy. You're too exhausted, too changed, too damaged to feel much of anything. The return march is longer than the outbound journey because you're moving more slowly, casualties reducing the Legion's pace, supply situation still dire. You march day after day through the same difficult terrain, now harder because you're weaker, colder, more depleted. The Legion's strength is severely reduced. You started the campaign at full strength, 6,000 legionaries. You're returning with perhaps 4,500 effective soldiers, 1,500 men lost to combat, disease, desertion. Every contubernium has losses. Your own tent group of 8 is now 5. Lucius, dead from infection. Marcus discharged after his breakdown. One other killed in the final battle. The empty spaces in your tent make sleep even harder, filled with memories of men who were your family. You receive your pay for the campaign period, several months' accumulated wages. The amount is less than expected because various deductions have been made for equipment losses, for rations, for the burial fund. What remains is still significant by civilian standards, but you've paid for it with blood, suffering, and pieces of your humanity. Modern people who trade time for money in safe office jobs cannot conceive of earning wages this way. You send most of the money home to your family, whom you haven't seen in 3 years and might not see for another 20. The permanent camp is reached, a massive fortified base that houses the Legion during non-campaign periods. It's a city unto itself, with stone buildings, bath complexes, workshops, temples, and all the infrastructure needed to maintain 6,000 soldiers. After months of marching and temporary camps, the permanent quarters feel luxurious, despite being basic stone barracks. Modern people who think military bases are austere would find even this luxurious, permanent camp harsh by their standards. You're assigned to a barracks block with your surviving tent mates and a few replacements, new recruits who'll fill out your contubernium. The new men are young, untested, naive about what military life really entails. You look at them and barely remember being that young and idealistic yourself. You're only 32 years old, but you feel ancient, worn down by 5 years of service with 20 more to go. Modern people who expect to be vital and healthy into their 30s would be shocked by how much aging this lifestyle accelerates. The bath complex is your first priority. You haven't had a proper bath in months. The caldarium, hot bath, is almost overwhelming after so long with just cold water washing. You scrub away layers of accumulated dirt, blood, and grime. The hot water stings your wounds and rashes, but it's glorious. Around you, other legionaries are doing the same, their bodies showing the cost of campaign, scars. The physical environment is harsh. You're marching through difficult terrain, mountains, forests, rivers that must be forded. The weather is turning cold as autumn arrives, and your wool tunic and cloak provide inadequate protection. Frostbite affects several soldiers. Your caligae offer no protection against cold or wet, and your feet are constantly damp, leading to fungal infections and rot. Modern people, with their insulated, waterproof hiking boots, would still find these conditions challenging. You're facing them with minimal equipment and no alternative but to continue. Morale is declining despite the centurion's efforts to maintain discipline. Men are talking openly about their suffering, about the seeming pointlessness of this campaign, about wanting to return to permanent quarters. These conversations are dangerous. They border on mutiny, but they're also necessary releases of pressure. You participate cautiously, expressing solidarity while avoiding anything that could be construed as disloyalty. Modern people who expect freedom of speech would find this environment where your words could lead to execution psychologically oppressive. A major battle is finally joined. The barbarian forces, cornered by the legion's pursuit, turn and fight. The engagement lasts for hours. Waves of attacks against the Roman line, cavalry charges, missile exchanges. You fight in the center of the formation, your section of the line holding against repeated assaults. Men fall around you, replaced immediately by reserves. You're covered in blood, some yours, mostly others. Your arm, still not fully healed from the previous wound, is injured again. You barely notice in the chaos. The battle is won. The barbarian forces are broken and fleeing, but the cost is significant. Your century has lost perhaps a quarter of its strength to death and serious wounds. The Legion as a whole has suffered hundreds of casualties. The victory is real, but Pyrrhic, you've accomplished the military objective, but at tremendous cost in lives and capability. Modern people who think of military victory in terms of achieving objectives would be shocked by the human cost of ancient warfare. The aftermath of the battle is grimmer than the combat itself. The wounded must be treated, and the sheer number overwhelms the medical staff. Triage decisions
are brutal. Those who might survive with treatment are prioritized. Those who probably won't survive are given mercy deaths or left to die naturally. Those with minor wounds must treat themselves. You help carry wounded comrades to the medical area. Their screams of agony making you want to vomit. Older people, shielded from the reality of mass casualties, would be traumatized beyond function by this field hospital horror.
Weeks pass in a blur of marching, camp construction, guard duty, and constant vigilance. The Legion is on an extended campaign now, pursuing barbarian forces deeper into hostile territory. The initial excitement and fear have given way to grinding routine, punctuated by occasional violence. This is the reality of Roman military campaigns, not constant glorious battle, but endless marching, poor conditions, inadequate supplies, disease, and uncertainty. The food situation has deteriorated. Supply lines are stretched, and the region you're moving through has been ravaged by previous military action. There's little to forage or requisition. Your grain rations are reduced, the pulse thinner, hunger a constant companion. You're losing weight despite the heavy physical demands, your body consuming itself to fuel the daily exertions. Modern people who've never experienced real hunger would find the constant gnawing emptiness, the obsessive thoughts about food, the weakness from inadequate nutrition, psychologically and physically devastating. Disease is spreading through the Legion. Dysentery first. Men suffering from severe diarrhea that weakens them rapidly. The cramped, unsanitary conditions make disease spread easily. You contract it yourself, experiencing days of intestinal agony while still being expected to march and perform duties. There's no time for sick leave. You shit yourself while marching. Clean yourself as best you can during brief halts and continue. The humiliation and physical misery would defeat most modern people, but you endure because everyone else is enduring, and because stopping means being left behind. Lucius, your tent mate with the leg wound, dies of infection. You help bury him alongside a dozen other men who've died from wounds or disease in the past weeks. There's no elaborate ceremony, a quick prayer, a shallow grave, markers that probably won't last. You take his personal effects to send to his family if you ever return to a place where you can send them. The grief is real, but compartmentalized. You cannot dwell on loss, because that way leads to incapacity. Modern people who process grief through stages and support groups would be forced to simply suppress and continue functioning. The enemy is using guerrilla tactics, avoiding direct battle while harassing your column. Ambushes happen frequently, sudden attacks from forests or hills, then quick retreats before the Legion can respond effectively. These attacks create constant stress and occasional casualties. You never feel safe, even during marches, even during rest periods. The psychological toll of never being able to relax, of constant threat, would wear down even the strongest modern person. You participate in a retaliatory raid on a barbarian village suspected of harboring warriors. The action is brutal. The village is burned, inhabitants killed or taken as slaves, supplies confiscated. You're involved in this violence, following orders, participating in actions that would be considered war crimes by modern standards. The moral weight of these acts is significant, though you suppress it because questioning orders is impossible, and because this is simply what military conquest entails in your era. Modern people with clear ethical boundaries would struggle with these moral compromises demanded by military service. A decimation is announced. This is the most feared punishment in the Roman army. When a unit has shown cowardice or mutinous behavior, every 10th man is selected by lot and beaten to death by his 9 comrades. Marcus's contubernium is being subjected to this for their collective failure. Several men froze during the attack, breaking formation. You watch with horror as the lots are drawn. One man, who actually fought bravely during the attack, draws the fatal lot. His tent mates, weeping, are forced to beat him to death with clubs. The brutality of Roman military discipline is absolute. Modern people who object to corporal punishment would be psychologically destroyed by witnessing or participating in a decimation. The psychological weight of witnessing this punishment, on top of the night attack, on top of the regular stresses of legionary life, is crushing. You're questioning whether you can endure 19 more years of this. The violence, the discipline, the constant proximity to death, the moral compromises required. But desertion is nearly impossible and punished by death if you're caught. You're trapped in this life by oath, by circumstance, by the fact that you have nowhere else to go. Modern people who can change jobs when dissatisfied cannot imagine being bound to a life that's destroying you mentally and physically. You think about home, your family, your former life before enlistment, but those memories are fading, becoming less real. The person you were before joining the Legion seems like someone else entirely. The Legion has reshaped you, your body through training, your mind through discipline, your soul through the things you've done and witnessed. Modern people who maintain their identity across different life phases would struggle with this complete transformation that military service demands. Religious observances take on new intensity after combat. The Legion conducts ceremonies honoring the gods, making offerings for victory and the souls of the fallen. You participate with genuine devotion. When facing mortality so directly, divine protection feels necessary. The camp's augurs read omens from the flight of birds, from the entrails of sacrificed animals, trying to determine if the gods favour continued operations here. Modern people who treat religion skeptically would find comfort in this supernatural framework that provides meaning and order to chaos and death. Evening brings another challenge: guard duty. Despite your wound and exhaustion, you're assigned to a wall position, standing watch over the darkness where yesterday's attackers came from. Every shadow seems threatening. Every sound makes you grip your gladius tighter. The hypervigilance that comes after combat, combined with sleep deprivation and ongoing stress, creates a mental state that modern people would recognize as acute stress reaction. But you have no name for it, no treatment, just the expectation that you'll stand your watch and remain alert. The day following the night attack is surreal. Normal duties continue. The Legion must maintain its routine, its discipline, its readiness. But everyone is affected by what happened. The wounded are being treated in the camp's valetudinarium, the military hospital. You visit briefly to check on tent mates who were injured. One, Lucius, has a severe leg wound that's already showing signs of infection. The medicus is treating it with wine and wrapping it, but you both know infection is likely fatal. Lucius puts on a brave face, making jokes, but you can see the fear in his eyes. Your own wound is minor by comparison, but it's still painful and limits your arm mobility. The medicus examines it, cleans it again with wine, which burns agonizingly, and rebinds it. He tells you to keep it clean and dry, which is almost impossible given your living conditions. He gives you no time off, no light duty. You're expected to continue full duties unless you're physically incapable. Modern people who take sick days for minor illnesses would be shocked by this expectation that you simply function through injury and pain. The emotional aftermath of combat is something the Roman military doesn't officially acknowledge. There's no concept of PTSD or trauma counseling. You're simply expected to process what happened and continue. But sitting with your tent mates over the evening meal, you can see everyone is affected. Conversations are quieter, less joking. Eyes are distant. Sleep, when it comes, is troubled by dreams of violence. Modern understanding of combat stress would recognize what you're experiencing, but in your time, it's just the way things are after battle. Marcus, Your tent mate, who complained about the centurion before, is different now. During the attack, he froze, stood on the rampart with his shield up, but couldn't engage the enemy. Another soldier had to step in front of him to prevent the breach. Marcus wasn't physically injured, but something broke inside him. He's being watched now, his courage questioned, his reliability in doubt. In the Roman military, cowardice in battle is one of the worst offences. You want to support him, but association with a potential coward is dangerous for your own reputation. The centurion addresses the entire century about the battle. He praises those who fought well, singles out several for commendation. He mentions those who were wounded, honouring their sacrifice. But he also addresses Marcus, not by name, but by clear implication, speaking about the importance of courage, about maintaining honour, about the shame that comes to those who fail their comrades. The public nature of this shame, delivered in front of 100 men, is devastating. Modern people who think public speaking is stressful would be destroyed by this kind of public humiliation. Training resumes the day after the attack, as it always does. Your wounded arm makes sword work painful, but you're expected to participate fully. The centurion is watching for any sign of weakness, any excuse to identify potential problems before the next combat. You push through the pain, hiding any sign of discomfort, because showing injury is showing weakness. Modern people who respect their body's signals to rest and recover would be forced to override every instinct and continue functioning at full capacity despite injury. The barbarians are being pushed back. Roman discipline and superior equipment are telling against their courage and ferocity. They fight as individuals, brave but uncoordinated. You fight as a unit, each man protecting those beside him, shields locked, moving as one organism. They begin to retreat, jumping from the wall, abandoning their ladders. Some are cut down as they flee. Others disappear into the darkness beyond the fortifications. The combat lasts perhaps 20 minutes, though it felt like hours. The immediate danger past, you assess yourself. The wound on your arm is bleeding, but not severe. A cut perhaps 3 inches long, not deep enough to have hit major vessels. You bind it with a strip of cloth torn from your tunic. Around you, others are wounded more seriously. One man's helmet was split by an axe, killing him instantly. Another is screaming, clutching his stomach where a spear pierced through his mail. The Medici arrive, beginning the brutal process of battlefield medicine, binding wounds, carrying away those too injured to walk, making quick assessments of who might survive, and who won't. You look out beyond the wall at the bodies lying in the ditch and scattered across the ground. Dozens of barbarians dead from the attack. Perhaps 10 Romans dead, twice that number wounded. The asymmetry reflects Roman military superiority, but the losses are still significant. Each dead Roman represents years of training, equipment investment, and irreplaceable military experience. Modern people who think of military casualties as statistics would be struck by the personal reality. These are men you knew, shared meals with, trained beside. The rest of the night is spent repairing damage to the fortifications, treating wounded, and maintaining heightened alert in case of another attack. You're assigned to the wall, standing guard with your arm throbbing from its wound, adrenaline slowly fading, leaving you shaky and exhausted. The emotional processing of what just happened must wait. You're still on duty, still must remain vigilant, still must function as a soldier despite having just killed men in hand-to-hand combat for the first time in your service. Dawn finally comes, revealing the full extent of the night's battle. The bodies are collected, Roman dead for proper burial, enemy dead to be stripped of anything useful before being left for scavengers. You help with this grim work, turning over corpses, searching them, trying not to look too closely at faces. One of the barbarians you search is young, probably not yet 20, and you realize you might have been the one who killed him. The face will join others in your dreams, assuming you ever sleep deeply enough to dream again. As the sun begins to set, the pressure intensifies. Incomplete fortifications at nightfall mean the entire camp is vulnerable. You redouble your efforts, though your body is beyond exhaustion. You're running on pure will and fear of punishment now. The ditch deepens, the rampart rises, stakes are driven into position. The physical impossibility of what you're doing doesn't matter. It must be done, so you do it. Modern people who think they've experienced exhaustion have likely never pushed their bodies to this absolute limit. Finally, your section is completed and passes inspection. You're released to set up your tent and prepare the evening meal. But even these simple tasks feel monumental when you're this exhausted. Your tent mates are in similar condition, everyone moving slowly, like old men, joints stiff, muscles cramping. You help each other set up the tent, because individual effort is nearly impossible at this point. The tent stakes must be driven into ground that's already been trampled hard by thousands of feet, requiring hammer strikes that make your arms scream. The cooking fire is started, though finding fuel in an area that's already been stripped by thousands of soldiers passing through is challenging. You boil water for pulse, using grain from your personal ration. The meal preparation feels like it takes forever, though in reality, it's the same process as every night. Your mind is foggy from exhaustion, making even simple tasks difficult. Modern people who feel tired after a long day at work cannot understand this level of complete physical and mental depletion. While the food cooks, you must still maintain your equipment. Your gladius needs attention. The leather fittings have loosened from the day's wear, and you must re-tighten them. Your caligae have broken straps that need repair. Your shield has picked up damage that must be addressed. This maintenance cannot be deferred, because tomorrow might bring combat, and your life depends on your equipment. Modern people who postpone minor repairs would be killed by this necessity for constant upkeep. The meal finally ready, you eat mechanically. Your body needs the food, but you're almost too tired to chew. The pulse is the same as always, but tonight you barely taste it. Food is just fuel, consumed to enable you to survive tomorrow's demands. Modern people who think of meals as social experiences would find this utilitarian relationship with food depressing. But you've long since stopped thinking of food as pleasure. After eating, there's a brief period before guard duty assignments are announced. You lie on the ground in your tent, every muscle aching, feet throbbing, hands raw. You close your eyes for what feels like a moment, but is probably several minutes. A tent mate shakes you awake. You're assigned to the third watch tonight, which means you'll get a few hours of sleep before your shift. You're grateful it's not first watch, though you know third watch means being woken from deep sleep, which has its own misery. You try to sleep immediately, but your body won't relax. Your muscles are cramping, your feet burning, your mind replaying the day's march. The sounds of 6,000 men settling in for the night fill the camp. Conversations, arguments, coughing, the constant background noise of a military city. Eventually, exhaustion overcomes discomfort, and you drift into uneasy sleep. For tonight's camp must be immediately prepared, and every legionary knows the procedure by heart. This is perhaps the most impressive aspect of Roman military discipline. No matter how exhausted the troops, a fortified camp is constructed every single night. The standard is so rigid that Roman camps across the empire follow the same layout, so precise that a legionary transferred from one legion to another can find his way around a new camp in darkness. The site has been chosen by the legion's engineers and command staff. Flat ground if possible, near water, with good sight lines. Officers use specialized tools to mark out the camp perimeter in a rectangular shape. The camp will cover about 50 acres for a full legion, with specific areas designated for each cohort, century and contubernium. Modern military bases that take months to construct don't compare to building a fortified town in an afternoon while exhausted from marching. Your cohort is assigned a section of the perimeter to fortify. Despite having just marched 23 miles, carrying 80 pounds, you must now dig. You pull the dolabra from your pack and join the line of men already breaking ground. The task is enormous. A ditch must be dug around the entire camp perimeter, typically 5 feet deep and 10 feet wide. The removed earth must be piled to create a rampart. Stakes must be driven into the rampart to create defensive barriers. All of this must be completed before darkness falls, which is now only a few hours away. You swing the dolabra mechanically, your body operating on automatic despite exhaustion. Each strike breaks up more earth. Each shovel full is thrown up onto the rampart. Your back screams from the bent posture. Your shoulders burn from the repetitive motion. Your hands, already damaged from previous days' labour, crack open and bleed. Modern people who feel accomplished after a day of yard work cannot comprehend the scale and intensity of this construction effort while already exhausted from a forced march. The work is supervised closely by centurions and optios who measure progress and enforce standards. If your section falls behind or fails to meet specifications, your entire contubernium will face punishment, possibly being assigned the most dangerous guard posts tonight, possibly extra duties tomorrow, possibly physical punishment. This creates intense pressure to work as fast and effectively as possible, despite exhaustion. Modern workers with their labour laws and break requirements would be shocked by this system that pushes human bodies far beyond normal limits. Meanwhile, other legionaries are handling different aspects of camp construction. Some are laying out the internal streets in the precise grid pattern. Others are setting up the praetorium, the command area, in the exact centre of camp. Still others are establishing the water supply, the latrines, the cooking areas. The organisation is remarkable. Thousands of men performing coordinated tasks simultaneously, transforming empty ground into a fortified military base in hours. Modern people who find organising a group project difficult would be amazed by this level of coordination achieved through pure discipline and training.